welcome back to our channel. Susie has told Clayton that she cannot be with him if he slept with the two other girls, but was it too little too late? Welcome to our Bachelor Live. We are going to break down fantasy suites today and dish on all of the Bachelor tea. As always, I am your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Allison Van Dam. Allison, what a crazy week it's been with the Women Tell All, now fantasy suites. How are you doing? How do you think that this dramatic week ended up playing out?
I thought there was a lot of drama at the Women Tell All. There was a lot of screaming, there was a lot of insults. I didn't think it could get any more dramatic. So I was really looking forward to getting back to the season, seeing our three, very mature, very calm, finalists. And man, Susie and Clayton, they outshone Women Tell All.
Oh my God, it was really crazy, and we knew it was coming because there's been so many teases, but it was just like a mind F. Like we were all just like bombs were dropped, mouse on the floor. Like it was just a lot to process, and we're gonna break it all down. And before we do that, I want to remind everyone, if you're listening, to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and start commenting now in the live chat if you have any questions, because we'll be getting to those comments, opinions, whatever you got for us at the end of today's live. Now, Allison, we have to kind of start with Rachel because she got the first one-on-one date of the week. Clayton headed to Iceland with the final three girls, and he ended up telling Rachel that he was in love with her. She said she was in love with him. And it kind of was revealed at the end of the episode that they ended up sleeping together. So they seem pretty solid. What do you think of their connection and their date?
Rachel is the one that has made the most sense to me this entire season. I feel like ever since their first one on one, when they rode horseback into a random suburban backyard and joined a family for a picnic, I was like, any couple that can make this seem natural and fun, they clearly have a connection. And it just felt very normal and down to earth. And I can see them together and see them building a life together. So nothing that happened on this date was surprising to me. It didn't surprise me that they both expressed feelings, didn't surprise me that they spent the night together. I think Rachel has been a lot of people's front runner for this entire season.
Me too. I completely agree. I feel like him and Rachel just look the most good together. They just fit so well. So I'm kind of confused, and we'll get into the Susie parts. It's just kind of confusing why he's so upset over Susie when it's like Rachel's right in front of you and she makes perfect sense. Like, why are we overthinking this? I just feel like from an outsider looking in, and it seems like the majority of Bachelor Nation just sees it with Rachel so vividly. So I'm excited to see what happens with her next week. It doesn't look like she's going to take the news very well that he slept and that he's in love with multiple other women. But I mean, maybe she can get over it. We don't know how she's going to react. We only really know how Susie reacts to that news. Do you have any like predictions on how Rachel's going to be able to handle it? Do you think that her and Clayton could work things out and that he could propose to her?
I'm looking forward to next week because we've seen the tease of, the rose ceremony. We've known it's a blonde, we known it's a brunette that he delivers this news to, that he's been intimate with both of them. We've seen the girls crying on the stairs, walking away from the camera. The drama has just begun. I would hope that Rachel, is mature enough to look, above it, look around it, get over it. I can honestly see Gabby maybe handling it a little better just based on their conversation and her encouraging Clayton to see where his connections lie with the other women, go forward physically. She was very much, the positive one of the group, that he should be going and spending the night with other people so he knows his decision is correct. So I don't know. I can see it going both ways because I think Rachel has a good head on her shoulders, but she's also really invested in Clayton right now. So she could have a very similar reaction to Susie and just be extremely hurt that he did decide to spend the night with Gabby.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's going to be a lot to process either way. I don't know if she cares that she got to hit it first. I mean, she had the first one-on-one date of the week. Like, does that mean anything to her? Or maybe it's like, oh, you're going to sleep with somebody after me. Was I not good enough? It's just kind of like those things are going to go through these girls' minds when they find out all of this next week. And the second one-on-one date went to Gabby, and the two of them also had an amazing date. I thought it was really awkward, though, when they were in the lodge and they were, like, making out, like, over the table. And, like, there was just, like, a couple other people in the lodge. I'm like, who are those people? Like, are they just, like, extras? Like, come on. Like, you totally rented out this lodge. But either way, they also ended up spending the night in fantasy suites together. And later in the episode, it was revealed that they were intimate with each other as well. And they're in love with each other. He said, I love you. She said, I love you. What do you think of Gabby and Clayton's connection?
I thought it was interesting because she had the note when they were in the lodge, and I felt the exact same way. I was like, who are these people in the background? This is completely unnecessary. We don't need to fill it. But she was talking about previous relationships and always kind of being seen as the goofy one. And, oh, silly Gabby.
Mhm.
And I think her grandpa even called her like a dingbat during her hometown. So clearly, this is just like her reputation preceding her. But I thought it was really interesting, again, as I mentioned, talking about the physical aspect, having a really down to earth, mature conversation about what it means to not only be so close to an engagement, but to be dating someone who's dating two other women. I feel like, if anything, the
Mhm.
goofy girl in this final three, Gabby, had the most kind of level headed perspective of what they were walking into. Not only do they have the opportunity to spend the night together, he has the opportunity to spend it with both other girls. So I was very impressed by Gabby in this moment. And I thought it definitely showed a different side of her, and maybe a side of her that we haven't seen, but Clayton has. And that's why she's stuck around for this long.
Do you think she could be the Bachelorette? Because I personally just don't think she's going to end up with Clayton. I don't see them together for the long haul.
I think a lot of people have been wondering if it's going to be Susie or Gabby. Gabby has a lot of supporters out there. I myself am more of a team Susie, but I think they present different qualities. I think Susie is definitely the more Hannah Brown bachelorette type, but I think Gabby presents a
Mhm.
very kind of Caitlin Bristow quality, kind of more
Ooh.
outspoken. Obviously, we've seen her, positive in the bedroom, all types of those kind of like qualities that we've seen before. I would also say we just had Katie Thurston, who I think we thought would exude those qualities as well. Hers wasn't necessarily a super well received season. So I don't know if that goes through Bachelor producers' heads as well, but maybe they kind of need a balance because we just had a very even keeled Michelle. Maybe they want someone more spunky. I can see it going both ways.
Yeah, we definitely need someone a little bit more spunky and crazy. I think Gabby would give us a really good season. I think that she would have a lot of guys that were really interested in her, and she seems to carry herself very well. She knows the franchise very well. She previously dated two guys from the show, Blake and Dean, and we're forgetting about that. So I feel like Gabby really knew what she signed up for. So I think that's probably why she's the most level headed out of the three, understanding, like, hey, it's possible that he's going to fall in love with other girls, but no one's really talking about Rachel becoming a potential bachelorette. Like, we've seen people say Teddy, Serene, like no one has said Rachel. Why do you think that is?
I think part of it is because we've always seen her as a front runner for Clayton. They've made the most sense as a
Mm.
couple. So since the beginning, we've been trying to see, okay, who else have we fallen in love with that maybe Clayton will send home, maybe who will send themselves home. And I'm not sure she kind of has that fire, that spunk, or maybe even the story that we've just discussed with the other candidates to be Bachelorette. I think it's great that she's, a female pilot. She talked about that with Clayton and how hard it's been to kind of stake her claim in that industry. But I think maybe after this season, Rachel is going to finish her time in the franchise.
Yeah, I kind of get that vibe too. It doesn't seem like she's really like a TV personality. I mean, a lot of people go on The Bachelor, they become influencers, they become TV hosts, they go on other reality shows. It doesn't really seem like Rachel is that type of girl. I would be shocked to even see her in Paradise. I mean, my fingers are still crossed that she and Clayton end up together somehow. But we'll have to kind of see what happens next week on the two-part finale. And while all these fantasy suites are going on with Gabby and Rachel, and I can tell you guys that I believe there is like a night break. So it's like Rachel has her overnight date, then Clayton gets a day off, the next day it's Gabby, another day off. So Susie's back at the hotel for like 5 days, literally spiraling out of control as she walks down a spiral staircase. And they used to separate the women at the final three, but now they keep them in the same hotel room, and they did this with the three men last season on Michelle's season. It really makes things awkward, and the tension is just at an all-time high because you see the person coming in the morning after. What do you think of them doing this? Is this cruel? Is this too much? Or is this just them trying to hype up, like the producers trying to hype up the drama?
I think it happened initially because of COVID. Everyone was quarantining together. They didn't have all these separate
Oh.
rooms. And I think they realized what drama insinuates from having people walk back in after having spent the night with the person everyone else is dating. So I think it was born out of necessity, but then they definitely kept it because it created so much drama. I think it's a bit cruel. I mean, I know it's a TV show, but come on, you already know you're all dating the same person. But again, this is a week, maybe 10 days before this guy proposes to one of them. So it's gonna do nothing but hurt the girls to see another girl walk in. They even commented with Gabby, they're like, you have bedhead. Like, it's just too many details that they
Mhm.
don't need to know.
No, because it really is like it's one thing to date and like make out, but now that they're spending quality time alone without cameras and they possibly, were intimate, it's gotta drive you crazy. It's a new level of jealousy that these girls or guys are going to experience than just like the makeouts and the dates. So, I mean, I think it's good TV, but it's definitely very, very, it's teasing. It's a lot of tormenting. So no wonder Susie went crazy as the third person. And of course, they're going to strategically put her third because they know she, is the one that's most likely to spiral out of control. So Susie finally gets her one on one date and she goes into the date with a lot of concern because she sees how happy Gabby and Rachel were after they came back from their dates. But Susie wanted to just have a great day with Clayton, so she didn't bring up her true feelings until the night portion of the date. When we got to the dinner date, Susie, expressed that, or Clayton expressed that he has fallen in love with her, and Susie just wanted to know if he was intimate or if he said those words or shared love with the other two women, because if he did, she would be unable to go into the fantasy suite and continue on in a relationship with Clayton. And this is where Clayton says that he did. He did sleep with the other two girls. He had to be honest and forthcoming. At first, he said somebody else, and then he later revealed it was both. But he also said that Susie was his top choice, that he loves her more than the other two. So that's kind of where it gets confusing. What did you take away from this conversation? Because it was very back and forth, and it was like, they were both making sense, but then they were both like not being forthcoming either because Susie didn't communicate this earlier, but then how do you expect her to react, Clayton?
And I think the biggest question that I was thinking about when watching this the first time was when he kept saying, "I have slept with someone." And I've said I loved you to someone. I was in love with that person. He kept using singular terms. And originally I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking to myself, oh, maybe, Susie was number two and they decided to edit her at the ending for drama. Like maybe he
Oh.
genuinely had only slept with Gabby or Rachel until he got to that point of saying, let's say I have slept with both and split it. It just kind of came out of nowhere. So he went from, I felt like trying to not tell the whole truth, but not fully lie, which I don't know, raised some red flags with me. I was like, you just got to be honest, just be transparent with her. She's asking a question, give her an honest answer. So that honestly didn't sit well with me, the way that he was kind of trying to get around it. And then he spit out
Mm-hmm.
both. And suddenly I felt like it was when he kind of spit out both that it just all hit the fan. Like it became a completely different conversation. It was heated. I'm like, maybe they edited around something. Were there more questions that we missed?
Mm-hmm.
It went from 0 to 100 very quickly.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I feel like he was dancing around the subject because she flat out asked, for a question that none of the other girls asked. That's the thing. Rachel and Gabby aren't asking about Susie's connection or about their other connections. Susie is the only one that's like asking, wait, are you in love with these girls as well? And do we think she's asking because she's just being the most logical? Or do we think it's just because she got the third group date? Because I guess it's kind of both.
I was going to say, I think it can be both because honestly, again, the person that you're about to be engaged to is dating two other women. So if he says, I love you, it either is going to carry the same weight or maybe less weight than if you were dating in the normal world and your boyfriend says, I love you for the first time. I would have asked the same thing because it's like, what does this I love you mean to you? Is it the stage that you're now at with all of
Mm-hmm.
us? Is it special to me? And I think that's where her questions were coming from. And she was trying to gauge how much that actually weighed to him, which is then, when he started fumbling around and said, well, I love you the most and whatever. And I'm like, now we're,
Yeah.
putting emphasis on how much love he's given
Uh-huh.
to each and every one of them. It was chaos from beginning to end.
Oh my God. I mean, listen, this is The Bachelor. Like, there's no denying that he's going to fall in love with multiple women. I kind of feel like maybe I mean, I know it's so hard and I'm obviously so empathetic with Susie, but I almost feel like she kind of bit herself in the foot asking that question because, she's not going to like the answer either way. Like, of course, he has strong feelings for the other women. It's probably better to just not ask because then you just don't know and you could just focus on Clayton because, Clayton is separating each of these relationships. He has one date, one night with each girl. So he's trying not to think about the other girls while he's with Susie. But, Susie has valid concerns that she needs to know if he, was intimate or if he fell in love. But because for her, it's a deal breaker to go into the fantasy suites if that is the case. However, Clayton is now frustrated, and this is where we see him get mad because Susie didn't express that would be a deal breaker before fantasy suites. Like maybe if she expressed it at hometowns or even like earlier in the season that it would have been such an issue, maybe Clayton says that he wouldn't have maybe slept with both of them if he knew because he quote unquote loves Susie the most. How much truth is it to that? And how much do we think Clayton was just getting upset because he felt maybe rejected? Maybe he wanted the chase of Susie not giving it up so easily like the other two girls did. What did you think?
Going back to your first point of, Susie shouldn't have asked this. She should have just avoided the question. I feel
Hmm.
like that runs a risk, though, of had she not asked at that dinner portion, had they spent the night together, had they, let's say, finished the season together, do we not run the same
Uh-huh.
risk as Andy Dorfman's season, where suddenly after the final rose, Nick, talks about the night
True.
they spent together, and Andy's relationship completely crumbled because her finalist didn't know that that
Hmm.
happened in the fantasy suite. So I'm a
Ooh.
fan of transparency as soon as humanly possible. And while I agree with you that this maybe should have been discussed before he had the opportunity to, spend the night with other women, I think she asked the question as soon as she possibly could, having not seen him since her hometown.
That's totally fair. And then this is where we see Clayton kind of express his frustrations. He gets really mad. He ends up turning the issue around on Susie, flips the scripts on her. He goes red. He ends up kicking her out, walking her to the car very abruptly. He says, I don't even know you anymore. I can't even look at you. I mean, now Susie is like trying to talk reason with him because, like, she had a break. She talked to the producers. They like split up for like, what, 20 minutes. They come back. It feels like Susie's trying to be logical, but Clayton's feelings are already so hurt and that's taking over. And now he's like talking down to her and kind of diminishing the fact that like feels emotionally and physically cheated on, regardless if this is The Bachelor. It's almost like your relationship is more, it should be bigger than the show at this point. If Susie really is the one, I don't care what show we're on, like your loyalty still needs to be to me. So now he's just not acknowledging how hurt she is and he's turning it all around on him. And he really just throws her out like she was nothing. And now she's just gone and she's so remorseful. And she feels like she was the one that messed it up. When in reality, I feel like Clayton kind of messed it up by going about things the way he did. What did you think at the way they ended the breakup?
I think they discussed slash argued in very different ways. I felt like,
Hmm.
Susie was expressing her frustration in a very, she was still understanding to the end of it. She understood it was a show. She was expressing herself. She was crying, but she never raised her voice. She never got upset. She never,
Hmm.
blamed him for that. She just kept saying, I didn't want to ask you to do this. I guess I just thought that you would make this choice based on our connection. I didn't know you felt this way about these other girls. Like everything that came out of her mouth was very meticulous, was very calm. And again, I go back to my point of did we miss something? Did we get edited around somehow? Because everything, if we took a shot every time he said the word invalidate, we would be ready to go out on a Friday night. Like he was
Let's do it.
angry. Like I just
Because he was
he was just
rejected.
spitting things back. Yeah. And I think we talked about this earlier. His ego was bruised, he was hurt, and I think he was
Hmm.
trying to turn it back around on Susie and, pulling all these cards of, you've invalidated everything we've had and, based on my faith, I know I'm going to find someone
Yeah.
that fights for me and if I was truly your person, you would have fought. Like it was just he was an angry fighter and I felt like he was going with low blows. I could see how upset she was. America could see how upset she was. And he just didn't need to go
Hmm.
there.
I think Clayton had valid points in the beginning, like, being blindsided, this is The Bachelor, but then like you said, he just went about it the wrong way and then he said things that were just like uncalled for and didn't make sense. And I think it really just shows that the two of them don't know how to communicate or their arguing styles are very differently. Do you think this is something that they could work out if, he ends up chasing her or if she chooses to come back? Or do you think that this fight just shows that they are two different people who just aren't meant to be together in the long haul?
Yeah, I think that goes back to another question I had of he said at one point, wouldn't it be worth it for us to take these next 7 hours and sit down and really
Mhm.
discuss this? And they never reached the point of even going to the fantasy suite just to sit down and talk, which I think is a problem that they would continue running into should they end up together or should they keep trying. Because I do think that maybe if they'd taken time apart to breathe first and foremost, but then time away from the cameras to sit down and really talk, they could have reached an agreement, but they never even got there. They never got to the room. So if they're too heated, specifically Clayton, if Clayton's too heated to even get to the point of discussing, then it's not worth continuing to try.
Yeah, they definitely needed they needed a minute from each other. They needed like maybe another day to sleep on things, but I also feel like they missed out on their opportunity to get the fantasy suites. You wait all season for that moment to be off camera to have a conversation. So I almost feel like they should have just went into the fantasy suites and maybe let her take a shower or let him take a shower, cool off, separate for like 30, 40 minutes. It's a big suite. It's not like you're in a studio. And then like come back together and sort this out off camera. Maybe the producers didn't want them to because they wanted to follow this storyline since it was a lot more intriguing and dramatic than the other two. So that could possibly be a possibility. Maybe they prevented them from having the fantasy suite. But where do you think we go from here? Because there is, some rumors online that maybe Susie comes back. There's like a knock on the door with Jesse Palmer in the preview. What do we think is next?
I wouldn't be surprised if, again, just like we discussed, they took some time apart and they realized that this wasn't, the ending point. This wasn't the final, stage of the relationship. They wanted to try again. And I think that would come down to maybe if Clayton goes and sees the other two girls and he just realizes that something's missing, if he turned back to Susie and
Hmm.
said, hey, I realize I spent the night with them. That's something I wanted to explore. Having explored that, I'm seeing now that I still don't see a life with either of them, despite feeling like I was in love or falling in love with them. That's not how I feel anymore. I think there's definitely still room in this season, especially given the fact that we have a 2 night finale, for him to change his
Hmm.
mind and for us to see. We've seen this before, a finalist or the lead going back to their second or third runner up and saying, hey, I changed my mind. You were the person for me. And I'm sorry that I, picked someone else in the meantime, but I've changed my mind.
Hmm. And maybe, him seeing Susie leave, maybe he wakes up the next day and is like, my heart's so hurt. I can't believe you left. And maybe he realized it and maybe they could sort things out. I just don't see them together though for the long haul. Like,
Mm.
regardless, I feel like they could have a productive conversation the next day and get closure. But in the long haul, I just feel like they're two different people and they're not meant to be together. And I feel like he just needs to be with Rachel. And that's what I want to see. So, I mean, next week we have 2 nights. Allison, why don't we open it up to our Q&A and see if any of our listeners have any opinions, questions, predictions, if you guys have any points that you want to make that we have not addressed yet. I feel like we've covered every side of it, Allison. What side are you on with Susie and Clayton? They're both right and they're both wrong, but like if you had to give a percentage, where are you siding?
Ooh, I would say 65% Susie, 35% Clayton. That would be my percentages.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm not even kidding you. I was like 60
We're
no,
saying,
like okay. Okay, what is Allison, what is Kobe saying?
can you imagine going back, watching and seeing you were intimate with Clayton, and then see him tell Susie she was the one and loved her the most? Wow, that's true. I mean, imagine him being like, wow, I'm falling in love with you, spending the night with him, thinking you're the one. And then no matter who he picks, let's say he picked Gabby or Rachel, that's going to be hard to watch back for sure. Do you
I
think you
just
could
think
ever get over
sex
that, Zachary?
means Well, I think sex means different things to different people. Like some people are just down to have sex, but someone they're hot. Like Rachel or Gabby could easily not care and can completely understand that like he needs to, hook up with all of them. And then someone like Susie, who's a little bit more emotional, is like, well, no, sex for me is like it's me. I'm not. You're not gonna hook up with me back to back with other girls. I personally empathize with Susie. I'm a little bit more reserved like that. Like for me, sex is more emotional. But I completely respect people who just want to get it on and just need to feel it out. So I really think it just depends on the woman. And I also kind of understand that like Clayton is a guy that likes to hook up. He's a straight male. He has testosterone. He has been teased for 2 months. We need to remember this. He hasn't been able to have sex for like what, 2 months, but instead he's making out with these girls so intensely with cameras. You know what I'm saying? Like in a normal world, Clayton wouldn't have
Hmm.
been not having sex for 2 months. So there's a lot of built up, whatever. Like he's probably masturbating every night. So it's like, I get both sides. Like, and I'm not judging him for having sex with both of them. I'm honestly not. I understand. Biba
I
says
think I
Susie for
think part
sure
of
was
that is.
coached. No, go.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, even beyond the physical aspect, though, the fact that he said, I love you the most to Susie, that's got to
Yeah.
be, I mean, regardless of the physical aspect, that's going to be a blow to any other, love or accolades he's given the other
True.
two women, because it's clear he had a favorite.
But is Susie really his favorite though, or is it just because she said no and denied him? Because the guy likes the chase.
That's true.
So Biba says Susie for sure was coached to be the next Bachelorette. This is another theory. I literally don't think that that was what was going through Susie's mind. Now I know she was a fan of the show before she got on, and I know she's been watching for years. I know she's been compared to Hannah Brown a lot, but I mean, as Biba says, I think producers really want Susie as the next Hannah Brown. They even had her say she is the beast in her prior group date. Maybe the producers want Susie to be the next Bachelorette and they're trying to infiltrate and influence it, but I don't think that's what's going through Susie's mind. I think Susie's being 100% authentic and genuine.
I agree. I think everything she said to Clayton was trying to fight for the relationship and fight for him. And she was just expressing her clear boundaries and what she was hoping from him and the disappointments she was having based on his actions earlier that week.
Yeah. Do you want to read what Megan has to say?
Yes, Megan says the way Clayton handled this, no matter who was right or wrong, says a lot. He lost his temper too easily and he raised his voice at her while belittling her. That's not how you treat a girl. I completely agree. This goes back to the point of they just fought completely differently. He went from
Yeah.
0 to 100, and I think especially, I'll say it, like, coming from a man's perspective, if you're the woman in that situation, if you've had previous experiences, that can be a very shocking and scary thing depending on what you've gone through before, and it was not a great,
Hmm.
reflection on him.
No, he was yelling at her like he's just immature. I think he just was really yelling at her and he felt rejected. I will say that we've all gotten mad in our lives and we've all lashed out and said things we don't mean. Once you hit red, it's almost hard to like talk logically. I mean, everyone would be lying if you never cursed someone out that you loved. So I'm not like gonna say that he's a bad person for, his meltdown. I think that he went through this experience. He's emotionally exhausted. The girl that he says he loved most just dumped him. And now he has these two other girls he slept with that he doesn't even want to be with. Like, of course, he's so mad and he's having a meltdown and he's taking it out on the girl he loves most, which is things that we do when we are upset. We take out our frustrations on the people we love most. However, I mean, it's going to be hard to kind of recover from that. And I think that he's going to have to promise her, if he wants to win her back, that he's just not going to argue like that in the future. And that's not who he is. I mean, he did say in the middle of the argument, this is an out of character experience for him. So it's like, I would let it slide if I was Susie one time. But if he's yelling at me like that every time we have an argument, then it's going to be a wrap. Deborah says, Susie is out of his league. Completely agree. Completely agree.
Team Susie, 65% Susie. We said it.
Maybe, Allison, we should go to 70% Susie now, honestly.
Bump it
70
up.
30, okay? Yeah, Susie,
We'll do
I
it.
just don't see them together. Like, there's just no way. But she does really like him. There's no denying that. Sweet Spicy Eddie says Clayton deserves to be alone and doesn't deserve any of these women. So do you think he's gonna be alone and single? I mean, that would be the worst situation.
I honestly can see it, or I can see him maybe trying to fight with Susie or fight for Susie, I should say. And maybe if she doesn't, reciprocate well to that and doesn't want to still be with him, he could absolutely be single. And I think it's going to be very telling to see what we see at AFR, see, if he's with someone, if he's not. I hope if he's single, he has a really, grounded point of view on the whole thing, takes accountability for his part in this argument with Susie, and is just, ideally optimistic on finding love not on television.
I mean, I just hope for his sake that at least he tries to date somebody after, just because this was, a whole, journey, and it's the point of it. And there's three girls who love him. So it's like, hopefully, at least he can salvage one of the three relationships, because he did reach that love with three of them. But I also understand why all three of them are going to be hurt. I mean, we've given Clayton a hard time. No one is perfect as the Bachelor. It seems like an impossible position to be in. However, like, I mean, he's gonna have a really long week next week. He has to play out with all three of these girls after the final rose. What do we think is coming? I mean, what do you think is gonna be the most dramatic? Next week is gonna be a double live night. It's gonna be crazy.
I mean, if it's a double night, it means Monday night is so dramatic and they're probably going to leave us on a cliffhanger for Tuesday. I think they're going to be two really long nights. And I think what's so interesting about this is we really don't have guesses about where this is going. I think this show has been going on for so long. We've had so many examples that we kind of have a few formulas nailed down of how things can pan out. But this one's really a giant question mark for me and I think a lot of viewers.
Yeah. And honestly, if all else fails, Kira is set on the women tell all. She's interested. She said, call me. So, Clayton, it's not over for you. We're still wishing you find love in this some way, somehow. That's everything we have for you guys today. So be sure to let us know your thoughts, comments, predictions, opinions, any points you want to make that we did not make in the live. Let us know down below in the comments. And be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you never miss out on any updates. We'll be covering the rest of the season over here at Shared News, so you do not want to miss out on any of our hot takes. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by the lovely Allison Van Dam. Our social media handles are on the screen right now, so be sure to give us a follow. Come say hello, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.